Course 4 Anandi Gopal, an autobiography. I was born on 31st March 1865 as Yamuna Joshi in Kalyan, a small town near Mumbai. My family used to be the landlords in the town, but had lost their riches. When I was 9 years old, I was married and my name was changed to Anandi. Before my marriage, I could barely read Marathi. Education of girls was not common then. But my husband, Gopal Rao, was an ardent supporter of widow remarriage and women's education. After our marriage, he started teaching me. This was very difficult. In those days, a husband didn't even speak directly to his wife in front of others. In the beginning, my husband tried to enroll me in the missionary schools, but that did not work out. We had to move from Kalyan to Alibag to Kolhapur and finally to Calcutta, where he was left free to teach me. After my rapid progress, my husband was insistent that I should acquire higher education. In those days, female doctors were not available in our country. Many people reluctant to approach a male doctor would suffer a lot as a result. I myself had lost my infant son when I was 14. So I decided that I would like to be a doctor. My husband tried very hard to get me admitted to some university in America. Mrs. Carpenter of Russell, New Jersey, by chance, came to know my story and was moved by the correspondence and wrote me a letter. She offered to host me in the USA. Since Gopal Rao wasn't able to get a job there, we decided that I should live for America alone. We had to face a lot of opposition and criticism, to the extent of people throwing stones and cow dung at us. Finally, after many trials and tribulations, in June 1883, I reached America and met my carpenter Maushi, aunt. In America, there were many things that I thought were strange and many that the carpenters found strange about me. For example, the carpenters found it odd that I wouldn't sit down on a chair when Mr. Carpenter was in the room, as was the custom in India then, and I was astonished that they didn't bathe every day. Other things like my clothes and my not eating non-vegetarian food was also very strange for them. Carpenter Maushi took care of me as if I were her own daughter. She cried like a child when she left me at the Women's College in Philadelphia. The superintendent and the secretary of the college were very kind. They were impressed that I had come to study from so far away, braving poverty and opposition from my people. They even offered me a scholarship of $600 for the 3 years. The room that was provided to me at the college didn't have a proper fireplace. The fireplace emitted a lot of smoke when lit. So it was a choice between smoke and cold. I tried to get another place, but that was not possible, as no one was ready to rent a place to a brown Hindu girl trying to be a doctor. After about 2 years in that place, I had started having a constant temperature and cough. Well, living in an alien culture, weather was always going to be difficult, and I was ready to face it. My health was severely affected by my stay there. After around 2 years in the USA, I had sudden spells when I used to feel very faint and get a high temperature. The cough never left me. By the end of the 3 years, my condition had worsened. I somehow scraped through the final exams. At the convocation where my husband was present, it was announced that I was the first woman doctor of India and got a standing ovation for that. It was one of the most rewarding movements of my life. Day by day I grew worse and nothing worked. My husband then admitted me to the women's hospital in Philadelphia. I was then diagnosed as having tuberculosis, but the disease hadn't yet reached my lungs. The doctors advised me to go back to India. Her return to India. The journey back home took a further toll on Anandibai's health as doctors on the ship refused to treat a brown woman. On reaching India, she stayed at her cousin's place in Pune to receive treatment from a renowned Ayurvedic specialist. He, however, refused to treat her as, according to him, she had crossed the boundaries of society. Finally, on February 26, 1887, frustrated that all her achievements were in vain, Anandibai succumbed to her disease at the age of 22. She was mourned throughout India. Her ashes were sent to Mrs. Carpenter, who wanted to place them in her family cemetery in Poughkeepsie. Anandibai's efforts, however, were not in vain. To this day, she is an inspiration to Indian girls from all walks of life. She enables us to believe that whatever our situations and circumstances, nobody's dreams are unachievable and that each of us has the potential to achieve whatever we wish to. Today, the Maharashtra government has a fellowship in her name for young women working on women's health.